You will want to grab these fun garden accessories from Dollar Tree's seasonal section so we can create some beautiful spring DIYs for our home decor. We're going to start off with this ceramic bird. Dollar Tree has had these for several years at my local store. Let me know if they are still available at your local store. I'm going to be giving a coat of some gesso. I'm using the Artist Loft brand. If you're not sure what gesso is, it is a primer. Artists use it to prepare their substrates for paint, and I find that it works so well for crafting. So I'm going to give this bird 2 coats of my white gesso. I'm using the Artist Loft brand because it is a thinner texture, so it's not going to clog up all the different texture on the bird. Once my 2 coats are dry, I'm going to now give my bird 2 coats of some warm antique white paint, and I'm going to allow that to dry as well. Now I am using craft paint because, again, it's a thinner consistency and I don't want that to clog up all the different textures that you see on this bird. I've allowed the 2 coats to dry, and I'm going to seal it up with some matte varnish from the DecoArt brand. Now, you're probably like, Donna, why so many layers? Well, I am creating an antique look, and I wanted to seal up the craft paint because it's very, very porous, and the next step I'm going to be doing will really absorb into that paint and create a totally different look. So it's all nice and dry now. I'm going to go in and use some walnut gel stain, again from DecoArt. It's my favorite gel stain to use. And I'm going to apply the gel stain into all the nooks and crannies on the bird, getting it right into all those feathers with a paintbrush. And then I'm going to take a rag and wipe off the excess. You can see the beautiful texture that's left behind. Now, if I went and added the gel stain right over top of that craft paint would have just absorbed that stain and you would have had kind of an icky brown look. So this is what it looks like all dry now. I have this candlestick that I picked up from the thrift store, and it's got a bit of a lip, so I needed to lift that by using a wood slice in the center. I'm going to glue that, and I use this wood candlestick seasonally, so I can change this out by just popping off that wood slice as needed. I'm going to be working right on the wood slice here by creating a faux nest. I'm adding some hot glue to the edge and pressing some Spanish moss into that glue. Now, like I said, I'm working just on the wood slice, so I'm being careful not to get glue all over my candlestick. So I've got the nest built up, my bird fits in there nicely. I decided to add some twigs to create a more natural look. I just, again, add some glue, and I'm making sure that I'm not touching my candlestick. Even if I do, the hot glue is pretty easy to remove, so I'm not too concerned about it. This is not an antique candlestick. It's a newer piece, but I found it for a great deal at the thrift store. I decided that it needed a little pop of color, so I'm just using this scrap greenery that I had in my stash. I'm trimming it down, and I'm going to glue some little pieces in place as if it's a tree that is leafing out. You could add some feathers or some flowers. That would be a really pretty touch as well. I just like the simplicity of the greenery, so I'm going to add some little bits here and there, and then I'm going to just see how my bird looks sitting in there. I think it looks great. I'm loving this, but I went and I attempted to glue my bird into place, and I discovered that because there's so much depth with the branches and the moss and whatnot, I wasn't getting an attachment between the glue and the original wood slice. So I'm adding another little wood slice to the bottom of my bird, adding more hot glue, and now it is attaching to the other wood slice that I had on the candlestick, and that's it. This was a really easy project to put together, and I think it looks so beautiful. Dollar Tree has had these garden plaques for quite a while. I have decided that I wanted to recreate this, make it look way more high-end than it is. I'm covering it up with some gesso again. I'm using a stiff brush and I'm getting right into all the lettering and in between the leaves and flowers. I did have to give it 2 coats because you can see that the color is still showing through quite a bit, and I didn't want that to come through on my next layer. So I'm going to give it 2 coats, allow it to dry well. Now I'm going to go over it with some leaf green craft paint. You can see the color still coming through a bit, but once I've got the craft paint on, you're not even going to see that color any longer. So I'm gonna go over it. Again, I wanted to use craft paint because it goes on thinner and it's not gonna clog up all the texture on the garden plaque. And then I am going to be giving it 2 coats of the paint, and I'm allowing it to dry really well in between. I'm going in now and I'm going to add my second coat of the craft paint. You can see it really makes a difference. It was looking quite mottled looking before, and I didn't really want that to look. So here, both layers are dry. I'm going to go over it with some white vintage wash, again from DecoArt. And how you use this is you apply it with a paintbrush. I'm really making sure I'm adding it right into the lettering. And then you're going to take a rag and wipe off the excess. It creates a really cool whitewashed look. And if you get it right into that lettering, it really, really pops. I really like this look. I think it looks so pretty and fresh for spring. So I'm going to go ahead and work in around the butterfly and the flowers, really making sure I get all right into all that texture, and then take my rag and wipe off the excess. You may need to go over it again, which I do need to do, which I'll show you here in a minute. Right here, I'm going over the lettering again and I'm stippling it right in there. And then I'm being careful not to lift too much of it off, just enough so you can see just the lettering, because I really wanted those words to stand out. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on that, and then I'll show you what it looks like here in a minute. I'm adding this to a wood plaque that I got from Dollar Tree. I'm going to remove the hanger for now because it is in my way. As you can see, it looks really beautiful as is, but I wanted it to be a little bit lighter, so I'm going to use my whitewash again. I'm applying it this time just with a rag, and then I will allow it to dry well. You do need the wood to be really dry because we need to be able to glue the 2 pieces together, and the glue's not going to stick if the surface is still moist. I'm also adding some of the whitewash to the edge of the plaque. It's just MDF, but it actually worked really well. It made a more cohesive look. So here's our plaque all ready to go, and so is our wood plaque. And I'm going to now glue the 2 pieces together. I am using a combination of some E6000 and hot glue. So I'm just figuring out my placement before I add my adhesive. I'm just adding a little bit of E6000, just a couple of globs of that. And then I'm being more generous with my hot glue. I'm going to add that to the center as well. And then I'm going to just quickly line this up. And then I'm going to press down on it because I want to make sure that the E6000 and the plaque and the wood are all stuck together. Now I'm going to add the string back into place. I'm just using the same string that it came with, and then just string that in, tie the knots, and you can decorate this up if you'd like. I like the simplicity of this, but I think it's so pretty and it looks so fresh for my spring decor. Dollar Tree has had these cloche in their supplies for crafting for a while now, and they are so fun to use. I am using this off-white chalk paint to spray paint the base. I didn't want the black. I'm also going to be snipping off that little plastic bit that's on the underside of the base, And I'm just using some wire cutters just to snip that right off. I'm trying to make it as flat as possible because I want to add this battery pack of fairy lights to the underside. So there is a hole in this base and I'm able to feed the fairy lights through that hole. This strand of fairy lights has 20 lights. Dollar Tree has some that have got 12 lights, so you could use those as well, but I already have these in my stash, so I'm using these ones. I'm going to glue the wire into the base. I am just moving things around until I've got everything fitting in place, and then I will add glue to the rest of the wire to help hold it in place. You just want to make sure that the glue sets up really well before you move on. So the glue is set. I'm adding some glue to the battery pack. You just want to make sure you can get at the batteries to replace them as needed. And I use an end of a paintbrush to turn the switch on and off because it was a little too tight for my fingers. I'm using these beautiful little flowers. They come in different colors from Dollar Tree. They still had them. I saw them in my store, but I had these white ones already in my stash. Now, this is a fun part. You can see I'm folding the light in half, and I'm going to put that light up into the flower stem, and it just helps it just to glow so magically. I am using some wire cutters or needle nose pliers just to help push the light up into the stem a little bit as needed. I am using some hot glue to help hold those lights into place. I'm going about every second flower, and then I'm also going to leave some of the lights at the very end blank. I'm not adding any flowers at all to the end. So these were new to my store, and they were some cute little mushrooms in their fairy garden section. So I am just pulling a few sizes out, and I'm going to decide on which sizes I wanted to use. I'm just going to use 3 mushrooms. I couldn't decide in between these 2 smaller ones. You're probably like, Donna, go with the tiny one, or Donna, go with the next size up. I decided to go with this one. I thought it looked best. Of course, go with whichever size you'd like. But you know what? They were a little too bright for me. I wanted to tone it down to give it a bit more of a softer look. I'm using some peach paint, some light spring green, and a daffodil yellow, and I'm going to add it to the mushroom tops. And then I'm taking a rag and I'm just going to dab it off gently. And what I'm going to do is just slowly build up my color, but still allowing a bit of the color from underneath show through. Add some paint, dab it off, set it aside, allow it to dry, and I'm just going to keep going back and forth like that until I get a look that I'm really happy with. The only one that I wasn't too happy with was the yellow. I wish I actually had a softer yellow. I could have made mine, but to tell you the truth, I was being a little bit lazy. So I ended up adding a little bit of peach paint to the yellow as well, just like blending it in until I got a nice soft, gentle look. And it really created an interesting depth to the mushroom tops. So I ended up covering up the little dots. So I'm just going in with the end of a paintbrush and some white paint, and I'm adding those dots back in, and I'll allow that to dry. And I did that to all of my mushrooms. Now I'm gonna seal them up with some matte varnish. That'll prevent the paint from chipping off and also create a bit more depth. I don't know, somehow it just makes these things pop just a little bit more. So I'm gonna give those a coat of the varnish, set them aside, allow them to dry well. So some other accessories is this faux greenery, some twigs, some reindeer moss, and some branches. I also have my lights and then the topper for my cloche here. So I'm gonna start to just build my layers. I've got this nice little twig and I just needed to cut it down to size so it'll fit underneath my cloche. And I added some glue generously to the base, and it is really important. You'll wanna hold this in place until that glue sets. It will take a little while for that glue to set, but once you got it all set up, you can let it go. So now I'm just going to go ahead and just measure to make sure that my cloche fits over top of that branch still. And I'm going to start adding some other little branches here. This is a piece that I got from a bag of some branches from Dollar Tree, believe it or not. They were some little birch bark stems. Birch tree stems. I'm gonna start to add my mushrooms. I wanted one sitting on top of that like little mini log that you see there. I'm gonna glue that in place, and I'm going to start to add my other mushrooms. You just want to make sure that you don't have too much around the outer ring, because you need your cloche to be able to close back over top, and you need room for the lip of the cloche. I'm going to go ahead and add another little branch here and some more mushrooms, and then I will go in and start to add my moss. With projects like this, it's just all about layering all your different pieces. Adding all these different elements really create a beautiful and whimsical look. I love it. It just gets my imagination going. So I wanted to add a fairy light to the very, very top of the cloche lid. And the reason for that is because I want my lights to be spiraling throughout this cloche. And I found that doing this, it really works best. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and add some more branches and some moss and all my other little decorative elements. You can add some greenery, some florals. You can even add like a cute little figurine of a forest animal, or like a little ladybug or something would be really cute in there too. So I'm gonna also start to wind my wire, my lights in place that are on the wire here. Now I had somebody comment they didn't like the look of the wire. So if you don't like that look, you could definitely just hide that wire by twining it or winding it around some branches or what have you. That look doesn't bother me. I think it just looks like little little fireflies fluttering around through the sky. But of course, if you don't like it, then definitely try to camouflage that wire. So I'm putting the lid in place and the lights are just going all over. And I have to say, I am so happy with how this turned out. Let me know what you think. I've got another one that I had done for the fall. I'll have that one linked down below for you. But yes, I love this so much. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know what your favorite project was. List down in the comment section below. Check this spring video out for some more spring inspiration, and we will see you in the next one. Thanks for joining me. Take care. Bye.